So there's lots of great soft skills that you can explore in the metaverse without ever having written a single line of code. You do not have to code to be in this space.
I definitely resonate with what you said on the metaverse being a canvas. So it's a canvas. You can paint your picture and you can use it to tell your story. Could be for work, play, a bit of both. Why not?
A few years ago, I predicted that quantum development would be really big. And it's really starting to become quite huge now. So I'll make another prediction. And that prediction is that the metaverse will effectively become this 3D internet that I was talking about. So we've had the same internet now since, 1991-ish officially. And I think now is a really good chance for us to be able to evolve and allow what it is that we've created to move with us.
It feels, at least for me, that I've kind of time traveled this entire podcast.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Wow. Wow. It is. It is. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grant Thornton's Digital Unplugged podcast series. Thanks for joining in. I'm excited to welcome Kelly Vero, a futurist, a game developer, an architect of the metaverse, who has a knack for shaking up the status quo. With 30 years in game development and tech, Kelly's contributed to renowned franchises like Tomb Raider, Candy Crush, Transformers. She serves as the founder and CTO of Naked. She is a celebrated writer and has just recently launched her book called From Pixels to Portals, which is exploring the future of the metaverse through the evolution of video games. She's also the winner of the World Economic Forum's Startup Innovation Award 2024. Buckle up and get ready to join us with Kelly Vero today. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Kelly, let's start with your background. Can you share a bit about your professional journey and what piqued your interest to choose this field?
I always wanted to work in technology from a really young age. Obviously, there weren't a lot of women around doing technology at all. And when I spoke to my school and said that this is what I really wanted to do, they laughed at me. And then after they'd stopped laughing, they realized I was being serious. And it was kind of from there that I took a little bit of a non-professional, which turned into a professional background. So my background and training, we didn't have schools that taught people how to do computer science beyond huge laboratory engineering and testing. So I wanted to work in video games. And in doing so, the way that I learned to harness the power of video games was to play them, understand them, write about them, create them. And that's really where I started to get my professional skills, but also transferable skills. I've run studios, I've worked with much smaller studios and even worked on the tiniest kernels of ideas and built them into big franchises. So I dream big and I want to see the big picture, and that sometimes means looking into the future. So these days, the types of work that I do are really future focused, and I try to keep ahead of the developments that are happening in technology as much as possible. Of course, 2024 is the year of AI, but for a long time, we were in a lockdown situation in the pandemic. So it was really important for a lot of us to keep that productivity high. And in doing so, the metaverse really came into its own. It became a very amazing, productive platform. And that still is a platform that is very, very close to my heart. So I'm really happy to be able to talk to Grant Thornton today and explore some of the possibilities and some of the things that are coming towards us in the future rather quickly, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when you rightly said about what the future holds, right? Obviously, there has been a lot of buzz in the whole extended reality space. Now, with that kind of buzz comes also a lot of noise. What are some ways we can kind of see through all the noise, and maybe that'll help us unlock more value to clients? And what examples can you share with us today?
I think the thing that really unlocks XR completely and all of the different things that stem from it is use case. Even in video games, the use case was always for people to be entertained. So creating those specific experiences have always been at the heart of what video games have been about. Now, as we start to talk about extended reality, which includes VR, virtual reality, MR, mixed reality, AR, augmented reality, and these things all together in layer one device technology, we really have to think about, why are we doing this? What is the use case? Who's the end user, or who is the end consumer? And what is it exactly that we want to be able to develop for them? One of the key mistakes that people make, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, is they always create things with themselves in mind. We can't do that in video games and platform technology. We have to think about the consumer, because things move so quickly inside our industries collectively that we have to think really quickly on our feet about what's coming next. And that means we have to talk to folks like you and really draw down what that information is. We're driven by data, believe it or not. We're not just driven by aesthetic. So it's important to get those facts together and understand what those use cases are from day one.
Perfect, great. So I think one view we wanted to share was more in terms of, if this tech has been around for quite a while, and this tech has also kind of rapidly changed, uh, how does one hang on to something that's kind of constantly evolving and changing every day? And what should be some enablers or principles that someone keeps in mind when we're designing such experiences?
Really simply, build a community. Usually, if we're going to talk about crossing the chasm, we have those early adopters, right? And those folks, they do all of the work for the device or for the software or the technology generally. In the case of companies, like Apple or Google, these big tech corporations rely upon communities to be able to drive their message forward. The same thing should follow in industry. And that is the first thing to hang on to. Who is the community, and how do we serve that community effectively so that the community grows with us as a company, and grows with us in terms of the technology that we're developing and delivering? I really feel that one of the kind of key focal points as well from the community is the fact that it's a two-way street, it's a dialogue. The community will always speak directly to the device manufacturer or the technologist or the software developer and say, I want more of this, I want less of that. So that's one really cool thing to hang on to. The second thing is, us as human beings, we've got to hang on to our curiosity, because if we don't hang on to curiosity, then our interest in products, technologies, etc., will wane really quickly. So we've got to be curious constantly. We've got to stay as frosty or as excited as we possibly can about new device technologies, or even, these new buzzwords that popped into our sort of day-to-day vernacular, like NFT or VR, or social gaming, or hyper casual, these types of things. Is first of all to say, as a human, what does that mean? And then second of all, how does that affect me? And then thirdly, what can I do to be a part of that? So already as consumers, we start thinking immediately about how we can be part of a community, either a small one or as part of a wider spectrum of people that are involved and interested in what it is that's being made and developed.
Perfect. Absolutely agree, because I think we also learn from the communities as well. And I think the world is is that way, small and large. There's lots to learn
Yeah,
from as
yeah,
well, and still we're all just a phone call or a link away.
yeah,
Speaking about that, I think you brought in a very good point in terms of bringing a lot of hardware and multi channel experiences. So, if we need to look at creating a lot of extended reality plus gamification kind of experiences, what must we keep in mind when we get into something which is more multi-channel design for a good, compelling user experience?
yeah. Really great question. Darlene, the big thing for me has always been inclusivity, accessibility. Can everybody get onto this platform at the same time? Darini, can you be in the same place that I am, but on a different device? Did you get to feel the same way that I do at the same time? One of the cool things that we developed during the metaverse was being able to explore this possibility of persistence. So even when I go to sleep, because I'm in Europe, I go to sleep after you, but you wake up before me. Are you going to be there, or have you been there? And how would I know? If you left an apple for me in a metaverse experience, would I be able to pick that apple up the next day and say, oh, look, Darini left this for me? So we have not a problem, but we have to make sure that we are being as inclusive, but also as accessible as possible. So that means language, that means access to devices, that means persistence. I'm talking about the ability for us to be able to have seamless experiences too. This is not something where I do something and then you do something. We should be able to be in a place together. I mean, look, we're in a boardroom together right now. And, why can't we do that inside an experience? There are only a few platforms that really offer this potential. And fortunately, they're all corporate. So these experiences, I think that corporate has picked up on this accessibility and inclusivity much more than entertainment focused devices and experiences and softwares.
Yeah, right, Kelly. So I think one of the things we've also done at Grant Thornton over the last year is we've kind of designed and developed a lot of experiences which are not traditional to metaverse, but more looking at, let's say, learning and development, reimagining how employees can get onboarded. So today at Grant Thornton, we onboard all our employees on the metaverse, and we have all our avatars talking to each other. So just like what you said, it takes content engagement and the gamified experience, and just not gamification. It makes the whole experience better. In terms of building such experiences, obviously one can look at it from a very extrinsic motivators and then intrinsic motivators, which are very individual driven. In order to build experiences which can kind of balance both of these motivators that can keep our users engaged in the long run, what are your thoughts on that?
Loads of people have written about it, myself included. Amy Jo Kim is a great thought leader about this stuff. And one of the things that she developed while working on games like The Sims and Covet is understanding what these extrinsic and intrinsic motivators are, and then building the experiences around that. Some of the intrinsic experiences are things that we really feel, that are very visceral to us. I think if I'm to start at the beginning and to draw in what it was that you talked about before, I would talk about what is it like on our first day at school, if you can remember. I can just about remember that far back. But on my first day at school, I felt scared. I felt anxious. I didn't know why I was here. I hoped that I was going to make friends. Everything felt very new. So how do we onboard people in a way that they're going to feel like that? Well, first of all, we make them feel included. We make sure that they have accessible device methodologies or management. And then we start to think about what the intrinsic experience is. So that's something more visceral. That's the type of thing where you do your painting at school and then you take it home to your parents and say, look what I did at school today. And you really feel that you've achieved something. You know, people who visit the metaverse have always the same complaint when they talk to me about metaverse experiences, and that is, I don't know what I'm doing. No one told me what I'm supposed to do. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any connection. So that initial connection to whatever it is that's being created is really important. That's intrinsic to the experience. And then what happens usually is something super magical. After that intrinsic experience, we start to tell our community about that experience, like we're telling our mum and dad about the painting. And so in doing so, in sharing that intrinsic experience, what we start to do is create a story, a visceral experience that people can join into and get excited about. And that builds enthusiasm, and that cycle just continues. The extrinsic part is a gift. If people can do this, it's really good. In general day-to-day terms, we might call it loyalty marketing. So in extrinsic experiences, what you're doing is underpinning what that intrinsic matter or that visceral time in the metaverse is. And, you know, extrinsic experiences are really come back every day and do this. This is where gamification super comes into its own. In gamification, what we usually require people to do is build themselves to a place where they've got 10 apples that they've collected and they can convert that into something. But what extrinsic experiences do is they keep bringing you back to the main story. They keep telling you to go back to that visceral experience and talk to your community about it, or prove that you understand what it is that you're feeling. Now, to me, that's the real crux of what gamification is. A lot of people say, oh, in order to make things happen in your in gamification, all you need to do is just shake the device and then it measures this. It's absolute rubbish. The key focal point here is, what can you take back from the outside that you can bring into the intrinsic world that you have created inside that experience as an individual? And I think that's super powerful. So these two things hand in hand are really important when thinking about building what will become your overarching narrative or your overarching experience that people take away. And then what we do is we just plug devices or accessibility angles into that, so that maybe like with Pokemon or Tamagotchi, you can do things on your phone, or you can do things that on a console or in some other device. Like I'm wearing a device today that is, you know, definitely related to what I've just talked about, the Fitbit. It counts your steps, then I can compete with you. And then I go back to my dashboard, and all the time I'm involved in something that affects me personally on a very visceral level. And I think that's really important. And it's very easy for creators to discount some of these very specific elements to what makes a beautiful experience.
Thanks, Kelly. I think I agree with a lot of things. I think a couple of these experiences, for example, if I don't know, we could challenge each other for ensuring we keep our steps, our 10K steps a day or 20K steps a day in the metaverse, and kind of honor it as well. That's also a lot of physical experiences moving into the metaverse, and if we can do it, so can our avatars also, I guess.
That's a brilliant challenge, though. Yeah, absolutely. We should challenge our avatars to 10,000 steps as well.
Okay, so that leads me on to the next question, more in terms of I think if we were to draw on any particular sectors or any industries who possibly have, I think we've already seen some first mover advantage with industries very typical to a lot of luxury brands, branding, marketing, etc. What's next for other industries who can still kind of who are possibly just standing and watching by, and what can they do and get out of these metaverse and gamified experiences?
One of the best metaverses that I've seen in a long time actually services business really, really well. How does it do this? It utilizes, so this metaverse is called Break Room. Anybody can go there. It's really fantastic and quite well known. It came out of the Second Life generation, so it's about 10 years old. But it's a fantastic platform for training. And the reason why it's so good for training is that it's modular. And so from a corporate perspective, if you're training individuals or staff, you tend to work in modules. You want them to complete something before they move on to the next thing. And Break Room is really great at being able to handle the complexities of what those things are. I tell you though, this is tough because for a lot of agencies worldwide that do, very huge projects and blue chip companies, they've harnessed the power of being able to use the metaverse well. Smaller businesses use metaverses and onboard their employees in very different ways. And I think those types of experiences maybe are not so good because they're quite niche. And one of the reasons why I like what it is that you're doing, for example, and I really love what it is that other organizations are doing around the world, is you are taking into account all of those different requirements, and you are effectively modularizing your business in order for people to be able to see different aspects of how you do what it is that you do, a little bit like what Break Room do with training. And so I think that, whether you're training old people's homes or, elderly people into using modern technology, or you're training the carers that are looking after these elderly people, you can use the metaverse to do this. It's not just about bringing people together that are from different corners of the world. It's also about being able to use a sanitized or a clinical or a clean platform with which to be able to modularize, try saying that, with new employees, without politicizing what it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
Or bringing in specific opinions. So I think the metaverse is really great for this. So VR training and regular training is something that I've seen that's really, really great. Basic HR onboarding is also done really well in the metaverse. We've seen that too a million times. Now, I think we're going to talk about this in a minute or two, so I don't want to preempt it too much, but collaborative working is possibly the biggest thing that I think is happening to the metaverse right now. We've stopped thinking about the metaverse as being an entertainment platform, and we've started looking at the metaverse as being a place that is more of a 3D internet and less of, oh, I must just open this application or this application to talk to Darini, or I must do this to send an email. No, we don't need to do that anymore. We can have face-to-face experiences inside a lot of these platforms. We can send instant messages to each other, and we can go shopping whilst also finding out what it is we're going to have for lunch, or where we're meeting each other later after work or whatever. So I think this 3D internet idea is really important, and that is a great way to be able to serve all of the different elements of onboarding people in business, is to be more collaborative.
Okay, great, thanks. I think while we get to shopping and doing a lot of things, I think our earlier 10K steps will also be done that way, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
When the boss isn't watching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. I think another thing I think you touched upon was more on I think skills, right? Today, whether I am a shaper, I am a designer, I am an architect, or I am a developer, beyond just having technical finesse, what are some of the softer skills or competencies you think people will need to build if someone's already doing something in the metaverse, or if someone's, let's say, starting a career in metaverse?
Again, a really great question that people never ask, because they just think that you need to have a technological mindset to be able to be in this space. Empathy, the types of people that you speak to or connect with or collaborate with in these universes and platforms, they're behind a wall effectively. So how will you reach those people? How will you talk to them in a way that's not very sort of regimented and formulated? If we're talking about HR training, for example, how will you talk to people if everybody is inside a platform together? Well, one of the key skills is empathy. Also, I mentioned inclusivity and accessibility earlier. I'm really a part of this sort of inclusivity movement. And so I think understanding that people have not got whizzy devices and consoles and PCs, etc., where things happen instantaneously, you have to appreciate that in places like the World Economic Forum, these are definitely some of the types of areas that they're trying to overcome with regards ensuring that everybody has the same chances at being able to connect on a platform and collaborate and work together, whether you're in a village or whether you're on Wall Street, right? And so that's important. But from a more of a soft skill perspective, I would say, yeah, technology is good, one thing, but being able to dream, being creative, having good ideas, you can always find people who will turn your ideas into something. And so because of that, I really love the fact that the metaverse is almost like a blank canvas for us to be able to create whatever is in our deepest desires, whether that's for work. I certainly use a lot of the things that I create in the metaverse because I want people to be able to give me an instant reply. So, marketers, you can get good user focus testing by creating things in the metaverse instantly. The same with, creative directors, really being able to share your vision with people could better be done in a 3D world, whether using Yahaha or Decentraland, or whether you want to create something in Break Room or anything world. So there's lots of places for you to be able to get instant gratification, either as a user or as a creator. So there's lots of great soft skills that you can explore in the metaverse without ever having written a single line of code. You do not have to code to be in this space.
Perfect. Thanks, Kim. I think I definitely resonate with what you said on the metaverse being a canvas. So it's a canvas. You can paint your picture and you can use it to tell your story. Could be for work, play, a bit of both. Why not? I think a couple of questions more towards the end, I think was one of the questions we wanted to cover was more in terms of with everyone predicting how immersive tech is going to and will and is continuing to shape the way we interact with the world. What is Kelly as a futurist betting on?
Wow, all you've given me is really tough but great questions. A few years ago, I predicted that quantum development would be really big. And it's really starting to become quite huge now. So I'll make another prediction. And that prediction is that the metaverse will effectively become this 3D internet that I was talking about. So we've had the same internet now since, 1991-ish officially. And I think now is a really good chance for us to be able to evolve and allow what it is that we've created to move with us. Cast out some of the old stuff that, has died off and start to refine some of the experiences that we really loved in the internet and create this in more of a 3D format. There are already lots of places that you can go to for fun and entertainment, like escape rooms, where you put on your kind of VR headset and you sort of walk on a treadmill. Well, we can do the steps now inside our VR application, but also we can do things like manipulate objects. We can do our daily jobs. And that, if we're using AI, AI is really only going to help and be much more fundamental in the practical aspects of our day-to-day. So if we create on this blank canvas in this 3D internet, then we can be much more productive with getting robots or AI to do the things that we want to make practically. So I think refining a lot of our skills and a lot of our abilities, our inventions, our products, they have to be instantaneous now. We've become consumers that require things to happen like this. And so in order for us to do that, we have to make them quickly and just put them straight out there. The 3D internet's really going to help us do that. I walked down a road recently that is filled with digital signage. And this digital signage is all in AR. So I just use my phone. If we're thinking about what the Vision Pro is going to become, then that's going to be able to help us to walk down a street, right? And be able to know that actually we need to go in this direction instead of us continually looking at our phones and bumping into each other on the street. If we look at digital signage, we know how we're going to exit a building. We know how we're going to, find the next train. We know where the next exit is while we're driving. So why don't we utilize some of the things that we've developed up to this point and really do create this 3D experience? Also, I would say, mentioning the Vision Pro, this procedurally generated environment experience is going to be huge in the next couple of years. So just imagining something really quickly and then seeing it in front of us is going to be something that's going to be very realistic. And that will be of our own creation. We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams, right? So we need to ensure that things that we are creating, we can see them instantaneously. And I just think the speed is going to increase massively as we go to 5G, 6G, and so on. It's exciting, isn't it?
Wow, it is for sure. Speaking on the Vision Pro, I think it's personally, I think it's kind of it's living up to its hype in terms of capabilities and whatever glimpses we've seen so far. But have you seen any interesting real world use cases yet? And what's your
certainly certainly in my line of work, I create quite a lot of digital objects. I do a lot of digital twin work, so certainly being able to use the Vision Pro to be able to see real-time objects and manipulate those objects is really important. Everybody's going to onboard through the productivity element of what it is that Apple has. And that's going to be great for a little bit, but having this like fancy keyboard that's not really there is a novelty that will wear off real quick. And then I think we need to find something cool to do. So certainly I think the Vision Pro is a technology to bet on in the future for sure. There will be many more Vision Pro style procedurally generated environments, and more importantly, USD, which is Universal Scene Descriptor, which is the format with which they build everything in, is definitely the format of the future, because it allows us to be much more fluid in terms of what it is that we create. So again, going back to that blank canvas discussion, we're able to create things on the fly and show people things much faster with Vision Pro. So I would definitely bet on that. If we can just get rid of those ridiculous window sharing applications, we can do so much more in there. But Apple never made it really as a games platform. So I think this could be a real deciding factor for them in terms of creating more entertainment focused experiences.
So Kelly, let's move on and change the format to some rapid fire questions. So what's one piece of advice you would give to someone starting to explore the metaverse?
Be curious. Look at everything. Don't discount anything, because you don't know when you're going to need that piece of software, technology, etc.
Great. What's one advice you would give to a company who's considering to venture into immersive tech or gamification?
First of all, do it. Second of all, ensure that you have a good strategy and you follow some good KPIs.
Perfect. If you could have one superpower from a game in real life, what would you pick and how would you use it?
Wow, that's an amazing question. I'm really unprepared for this. I would say that if I was to have one superpower, it would be able to teleport.
Okay, perfect. And to where?
Any dimension, any planet, any time in history.
Okay, okay. One quote or takeaway from your book, From Pixels to Portals, for people who haven't read it yet.
The real overview and elevator pitch for the book is this is not for people who know everything about technology. In fact, this is a gateway into understanding what the metaverse can do for you.
Okay. I'm sure you must get this a lot, but what is your favorite video game of everything that you've created so far?
Oh, my favorite video game of all time is Final Fantasy VII. The favorite thing that I've created in my lifetime would be working on the Tomb Raider franchise. Lara Croft is the most notable character in history, and she just so happens to be a woman. So she beats Mario, and she's a powerful, strong woman. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well said. What's the most bizarre fashion trend you predict that will take off in the metaverse?
Oh, I think actually the big trend of 2024, maybe 2025 actually, is going to be more filtered clothing, as in we're talking on Zoom now, we're going to be wearing much more stuff today. Like, for example, these are not real glasses. As you can see, they've got a filter over. And I think we're going to be wearing much more filters to make us look more exciting when we have meetings. If we're going to be in Zoom meetings, we've got to be a bit more interesting.
Okay.
We're matching, actually. My glasses and your jacket.
Yes. A coincidence, but yes. And if you could add one emoji specifically for any virtual reality interactions that doesn't exist today, what would that be?
Oh, gosh. That's a really difficult question as well. You've really come with all the difficult questions. Actually, what I really liked was a feature that you used to get in Decentraland quite a lot, which was dance moves. I think dance moves are really important and they look so good in VR. So I think a VR dance move emoji would be really, really great for sure.
Thanks. So thank you so much for allowing us or giving us this opportunity to envision this blank canvas. And it feels, at least for me, that I've kind of time traveled this entire podcast. I think one thing personally I've learned from this conversation, Kelly, is I think being a futurist doesn't just mean that we keep predicting trends, but it's about being a dreamer and a doer. So thank you, Kelly. Lovely
Thank
having
you
you
so
here.
much. Yeah, thanks. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much, Grant Thornton, for this, and to you, Doreen, for being an excellent host. Thank you.